Okay, so this question is number 25 on math test 023. And it's asking you, beginning at time t0, you got these rabbits of a certain population that are modeled by this equation. According to this model, which of the following best describes how the size of the population changes over time? Now, I'm going to tell you that once you get pretty good at thinking about what happens long term, you'll find that it becomes easier. For instance, that's negative, which means e to the negative power is a fraction, okay? As t gets bigger, that fraction becomes tiny, 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 okay? And as the fraction becomes tiny, 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 the 50 gets closer and closer and closer to 0, which means as t gets huge, that will go to 0, okay? And again, that's because of the negative exponent. Negative exponent means 1 over something, a value. If you have 1 over 1, that's 1, but 1 over 5 is a smaller number. 1 over 1,000 is a smaller number. 1 over 1,000,000 is an even smaller number, okay? So this fraction multiplying 50 makes 50 get smaller and smaller and smaller. So as t gets bigger, e gets smaller, 50 gets smaller, which means what you end up with is 10,000 over 10, which is 1,000. Okay, that's a constant, which means in some way this is going to level off to that constant. Now I'm going to tell you, if you didn't see that, let me show you how you would do that in your calculator. First of all, you're going to enter it very carefully. You're going to go to the graph, and you're going to enter new. Okay, get your cursor in here, and you're going to enter numerator, which is in, oh shoot, hold on. I lost my calculator. Well, there it is. Hold on, let me get rid of this other stuff. Okay, my calculator's right here. Okay, I'm going to enter the numerator, which is 10,000. 10, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and what I'm going to do, even though it's just a single number, is I'm going to enclose the numerator in parentheses, divided by the denominator is going to be enclosed in parentheses. The denominator is 10 plus 50 times e to the power of, it's to the power of more than one thing. So I'm going to put parentheses, negative 0.5, and remember x is the variable you have to use here. Okay, so I'm going to close the exponent, and I'm going to close the denominator, and then hit OK. All right, it says it didn't like that, and so I'm going to go back in here. Oh, wait, look, it's not 10 equals, it's 10 plus. Okay, and then hit OK. It likes that, and I'm going to look at the graph. Okay, if I look at the graph, I can see a little red thing right there. I'm going to click zoom and tell it to zoom out. And then you have to tap it and tap it and tap it and tap it until you can kind of see, look what happens. Okay, if you want to do, go back here, graph, and do a zoom and tell it to do a box, you can then highlight that and see. And I'm going to do it again. Zoom, box. What happened here? Okay, if you look, and you can kind of see some red. I'm going to do another zoom box. This thing, it increased very rapidly, but it clearly leveled off. Okay, and so it does not increase without bound. If it increased without bound, you wouldn't see that leveling off. It increases for several years, then levels off is what we're seeing. It increases for several years, then decreases to 0. That's not what we saw. And we didn't see cyclical movement. Generally, what you're going to be looking at is sine, cosine, tangent if it's in cycles. So the answer to this question is B.